Hi, you guys. I just got back from a really incredible road trip for a few days. We went out to far eastern Oregon, sort of the southern part, to the Steens Mountain Wilderness area and the Alvord Desert. And it is just the most iconic, stunning landscape. It's very spare, it's high desert, it's expansive, like think iconic American West. And so I went out there for a few days with my partner and his two kids. They're older teenagers. And he's got an ambulance, a vintage ambulance that he's converted into a camper van. So we went out with that. It was very comfortable. And we just explored for a few days. Basically, I photographed from morning to night for a few days. And it was really, really rich and relaxing. So I thought that it would be fun to share with you some of the pictures I made along the way and just a look at what I was thinking about when I framed them up and a look inside my practice and process of photographing when I'm on the road. So that is what is in store for you in the coming video. I really hope you enjoy it. So the last time I was in this area was in 2009 and I was on my honeymoon. So I was just married. I've since been divorced and it's been many years at this point, but it was just really profound to take that same journey and stand on that same land that I stood on when I was a much younger woman and to really just reflect on the whole sweep of my life, and seeing that landscape again at 48 years old and just thinking about all of the love and the loss and the pain and the beauty and the joy and all of that. What better place to tap into that nostalgia and that sort of pathos than a wild, wild place like this where the wind just sweeps through the grass and the light is really divine, really changeable. You know those moments when everything is just so beautiful that it's also heartbreaking and you're sort of overcome by this simultaneous feeling of grief and gratitude and joy? I feel like that is what's needed to make the kind of photographs I want to make. When I photograph from that space, I'm tapped in, I'm deeply present, and my photographs feel like they're about more than just the sum of their parts. It's like we could walk into a landscape and just have this sense of acquisition and analysis as artists, or we could walk out into it and let it absolutely shatter us, absolutely break our hearts, and remind us of what it is to be human and how hard it is to be human and how beautiful it is to be human. So we're not just scratching the surface with our experience and our images. We're more likely to be able to access those deeper creative realms and make images worth caring about. And maybe that sense of pathos helps you see the light and shadow differently. Maybe it helps you see subjects that aren't necessarily the glitziest things and the flashiest scenes, but they're the more heartfelt, humble, and deeply beautiful scenes that really strike a chord. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot lately is this idea that we have a ticket to planet Earth, and it's just for the short ride, but it's this incredible ticket that we were so lucky to get. It's like the best ticket you could ever receive to the coolest, most amazing location, And wow, we get to be on this ride, It is unbelievable. And yes, it has all sorts of challenging, awful parts. But it also has these incredibly, incredibly beautiful, connected, spiritual, transcendent, joyful, and absolutely brilliantly magical parts. And isn't it just an absolute coup that we got a ticket to this ride? It's fun to think about it like that. And sure, my ticket included a lot of crummy, challenging stuff, but it also includes pure bliss and art and walking around in the last light of the day with my sweetie and his dog Hazel. It includes pain and absolute perfection. And that's the space I want to photograph from, with that in my heart and my mind. So after one night at a little hot spring resort, we drove out towards the Steens Mountain, towards Alvord Desert, and the landscape just gets drier and drier and drier. It's absolutely gorgeous. This is really dusty, really exposed territory. There is no shade. And to get into the Alvord, you need to drive on miles and miles of dirt road, gravel road. And so I just had a heyday photographing out the window, which was getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier, lots of dust. It was fantastic. And then we got out there and we drove all the way across the playa to the other side, just as a dust storm started to kick up. And it was incredible to watch it build and build as the winds got heavier. It started to rain a little bit and the wind was just whipping. And it ended up knocking over a sunshade we had up, knocked over a table we had up. It just pummeled us. And it ended up darkening out the sky and being so intense that we had to shelter in the van for a little while. It also really blasted my contact lenses, so I can see why people wear goggles out in environments like this. And a couple days later, we met a guy who said the winds were so strong that night that they had actually moved his camper. It was unbelievable. Here's a picture of me and Hazel weathering the storm. This was when it was at its worst and we had to wear some face coverings. You can see all that dust that got into the van. It was crazy, but but it was an adventure, right? And the best part was that everybody was a really, really good sport about it all. One of the things I was thinking about when I was photographing out in this landscape was I don't want to make photographs that are sort of stereotypical and been there, done that, photographs that I've even made in the past, or photographs that I might have made when I was a younger photographer and my eye was just less evolved, And it would be so easy to make those images. They're sort of ripe for the picking. They're the lowest hanging fruit oftentimes. And I consciously wanted to push myself to do more and deeper than that. So I might make some of those images just to get them out of the system, or just to say that, at least I didn't miss those. But I'm really looking for something more. So I'm looking for something that feels really moody or emotionally intense or emotionally dark or strange or sort of otherworldly. I don't want to photograph the world just as it is. I kind of want to interpret it more deeply through my lens. So I might do things like really underexpose an image or really overexpose an image to capture a bit more of the mood that's there. And now the camera is going to say, ooh, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. It wants you to expose perfectly every time, right? But sometimes the expression in my heart is not a perfect exposure. It's different. Like what I want to express is something else entirely. So I need to adjust those settings freely, creatively, to reflect my mood better and to express what my heart really wants to say. And how exciting it is to do that, to think that I'm not just here to record what is, but I am here to riff on what is presenting itself to me, to take what is presented by the world, and if I'm present enough, to make magic with it. That's the juice, And so how can we get there? I think oftentimes for me, it comes down to slowing down, really, really, really slowing down the way I move through the landscape, my steps, standing and just looking for a while and sort of soaking it all in, and really asking myself what I feel, what the landscape is bringing up for me, what emotions and moods are moving through me, and how can I best express that with the tools I have available with the camera. I don't want to do things the quote-unquote right way, the technically right way. I want to do things the way that feels right in my heart, and that's very often really different. So it's so good to dig into that and see what you find. Here's our trusty van the next morning, dustier for the wear, and one of the kids drew that cute smiley face on the side of the van. We had breakfast the next morning, and it is so sweet to just be able to cook up some good bacon and pancakes, and have some coffee, and listen to good music in the van. It just felt like the most perfect moment in the world. So to access the Alvord Desert, you have to drive for a really long time on dirt and gravel roads. I think it is 20 miles in one way. If you go the other direction, maybe it's as much as 40 miles on a road like this. But the beautiful thing about it is that it's really dusty. And so when you do see the rare other vehicle on the road, it kicks up a whole bunch of dust, which is also a great opportunity for photographing. This is my favorite image from that last scene. I love how simple it is. I love how the road up ahead is wider. I love that single electrical pole, and I love the windshield wiper there. And I love the flecks of dirt, and the chip in the windshield of the ambulance is just a really nice touch. I thought about editing a couple of those out, but I think ultimately they have to stay. It just adds to the ambiance. But I love the simplicity of this. I love the feel of the journey, the road trip, the American West. It just is so poetic and beautiful to me. Here's our trusty ambulance, the shadow of the ambulance, looking out over the playa. And then I just wandered around the edge of the playa where the grasses were and photographed in the last light of the day. And in this one, I am actually shooting this picture with my iPhone, but holding up my other camera. I just thought that would be kind of a fun self-portrait. This was really beautiful. This is a river of grass. And it happened because there was a water source, a little creek, and it just trickled down the hillside in this particular pattern just because of the lay of the land. And then grasses grew there because the land was more hydrated there. So it becomes a river of grass. My partner pointed it out, and then I made this photograph. And so in a way, this photograph is a collaboration between us because he's the one who spotted it first. And years ago, I would have photographed close-up images of the cracked earth. And I did. I made many of those. And I even made some this time just to sort of cross them off the list in a way. But I'm just less interested in that. And in my mind, those are sort of overdone. And I don't know that I can add anything to that. And so I was interested in upping the ante on that, doing something more and different, a little bit more original, more creative if I could, and more personal. So I photographed this first without my shadow, but it just felt kind of flat and sort of emotionally dead to me, and more kind of classical and traditional and less moody, less interpretive. And so I put my shadow in there, and then I really liked it a lot, and I like how elongated my legs are. Hey, I'm short, so any extra height I can get is a treat. But yeah, I like the interaction between the shapes in this one, the curve of that scratch in the earth, the rocks, and then the slightly unusual angle of my shadow. Sort of an odd composition in a way, but I think it has enough balance to feel whole and meaningful and not too ungainly. Here is our faithful mascot, Hazel, sitting outside looking beautiful. She is such a trooper. A lot of times I go for more timeless photographs, and I sort of tend to stay away from scenes that look modern in any way. It's just a natural instinct in me. It's what I like. Occasionally, though, modern elements do slip in, and I'm liking them more and more. And I don't want to stop myself from making an image because it doesn't fit the mold of the aesthetic that I've already established for myself. If I see an image that I know would be a strong shot, I'm attracted to it, I want to make the shot, but the style is a little bit different, I'm going to make it anyway. And because maybe that will become my style down the road, and I'm evolving into that, and I'm not fully cognizant of it yet. So I want to make the image. I think of images like this with a little more of a modern flair or modern elements, or images that feel a little more road trippy or photojournalistic-y. Images like that I think of as having a bit of a National Geographic look about them. And so I might see images like that and then think, oh, that's not really me. Maybe I won't make it. But no, I do. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it because I can always decide later if I like it or not, if it fits in with my other work or not. And if it doesn't, if it never fits in with anything else I do, it can just be a strong single image by itself, and that's great too. Here's a selection of my favorite images that I've shared in this video. I'm still playing with things like cropping and toning, But by the time you watch this video, there may be a couple or a few of these available in my print shop. So if you love one of these images, if you feel a connection to this beautiful Western landscape, and you want a print for your home, I would love, love, love to make one for you and send it your way. Some final thoughts I want to leave you with. When you go on a trip like this, especially when you're with other people who you really want to be present with, the reality is that you might only make a handful of strong images. I really like to remind myself that I might get just one I like, just one, or it might even be none. You cannot win them all. And I always think that recognizing that and really being comfortable with that is a key part of surviving as an artist. We just have to get out there, with our hearts on our sleeves. We do the best we can, we experiment, and who knows, magic might happen, but it also might not. You cannot make a whole portfolio in one long weekend, If you try to, it just winds up including a lot of weaker images that in your heart aren't that great. So it's helpful to sort of lower your expectations with that and think, maybe I'll just come away with a handful of images I like. That's actually ultimately really freeing. So you can have lower expectations for your shooting so there's no pressure around it. And then have higher standards when you choose only the very best images to share. All of that is a real lesson in letting go. And the more weaker images you let go of, the more the stronger ones can really shine. And then you look at those images and you think, this is my life's work, and I'm proud of what I'm doing as an artist. So on this trip, I came away with just a handful of images I love, and that's enough, that's enough. They are absolute gifts. Okay, thanks for taking this journey with me. I hope that it is nice and dusty where you are and that your windshield is absolutely filthy in the most picturesque way and that your lens has rain all over it and you are just out there happy as a clam photographing in this weird, wonderful world. If you'd like to explore creative ideas like these in more depth as they relate to your own photography, there are many different ways to work with me. I have a series of online courses, most of which you can start as soon as you sign up. Some focus on the creative side of the practice, and some are more professional track classes. And I also do one-on-one mentoring with students around the world. That's where we meet on Zoom or phone and do a deep dive on your archives, on any challenges you're working through, your current projects and goals, and I'll help you gain clarity and momentum with those things. Mentoring will feel really helpful if you're stalled or unsure about your next steps. With all of my offerings, I bring 20 plus years as a curator, photographer, gallerist, professional portfolio reviewer, educator, and juror to the table. I give you all my best guidance and support. The links are below for all my current online classes and to schedule a mentoring session with me. And if you enjoyed this video, please share. It does help support the work I do. Okay, happy photographing out there. Be well.